Hello there. Welcome to On the Beat, the podcast that uncovers full frontal male nudity in cinema. My name is Laura, and I am joined by my fabulous co-host, Ryan.
Sorry, I was just thinking about my entire life before we started this episode.
That's really good. I really like that you're adopting the Dewey COX mantra.
I mean, to be fair, we only watched this movie maybe less than 15 minutes ago, and I've already forgotten all of it. So.
Oh, I was going to say, it's so fresh. Yeah. So fresh in your mind.
Well, kind of like my whole life.
Oh. Okay. Well, before we get too deep, we are here to talk about the 2007 comedy Walk Hard, the Dewey COX story, starring John C. Reilly, Kristen Wiig, Jenna Fischer, and this is directed and basically co-written by Jake Kasdan.
Yeah, it's a Judd Apatow joint. It's one of those. It's
Indeed.
one of those soulless comedies that we've seen so many of over the past 20 years.
Well, these guys are friends. Jake and Judd. They worked on Freaks and Geeks together and Undeclared.
Okay. All right.
Best friends.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Well, he's old Jake's. He's a filmmaker and an actor, if we weren't already aware.
He's an actor?
Yeah, well, he gets dubbed as an actor because he's the son of Lawrence Kasdan.
Son of Body Heat.
Son of Body Heat, son of Big Chill, son of Silverado, and the Accidental Tourist, Lawrence Kasdan fame. But anyone else would probably remember he wrote Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
And he also wrote Empire Strikes Back, that movie.
Right,
movie is. That's a Star Wars, isn't it?
That is a Star Wars.
That's a Star Wars. Here's $10. Go see a Star Wars. But yeah, here's the thing, Laura. It's not what you know, but who you know that gets you in this business.
Like daddy?
Like daddy, like son. Although I'd rather watch his father's work. Anyway, let's just say he's made 7 films. Walk Hard, the Dewey COX story, sits somewhere in the middle of his filmography, but we might revisit some of his work. We might not. We will see.
We've got all the time in the world.
Yeah, we do. That is a real shame. So, he starts off with a film called Zero Effect in 1998. After that is Orange County in 2002.
Yeah.
I've not seen that movie.
I do like that movie.
I remember the poster.
It's got Baby Hanks in it.
It's got Colin Hanks in it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Jack Black.
So in 2006, he's got another film called The TV Set. Walk Hard comes out in 2007. And then after that, it's Bad Teacher in 2011. And Sex Tape in 2014. This becomes the Jason Segel, Cameron Diaz powerhouse.
Powerhouse, I wouldn't say that much because I don't think those films did very well, even though I saw them both in the theater. Because I'll see anything Jason Segel's in.
Awesome. But
unless they're the really sad ones that he's been in recently.
Okay, well, I'll preface that with that was sarcasm.
Oh.
Yes, it wasn't meant to be.
Is that why Cameron Diaz isn't working anymore?
Oh, what? Because the powerhouse wasn't as good as, say, De Niro and Pacino.
Correct.
Right. I think that's what they were maybe thinking. That's what they thought was going to happen when they put them together. Thinking
a De Niro, Pacino.
Yeah, it's going to be
sexy comedy.
It's basically going to be a 90-minute version of that coffee house scene in Heat, where everyone's going to extrapolate it and tear it apart and stuff like that. Be like,
but where they kiss at the end.
Yeah, they have a wee bit of a kiss, just a little kiss.
Just a little kiss.
He also did those other 2, the latest of the Jumanji movies.
Now I know what you're going to do, and you're going to say that they're shit, but that first new Jumanji movie is pretty good. It's pretty good. The second one is not very good.
I mean,
Welcome to the Jungle.
They're both kind of forgettable. I mean, I'm kind of just
they're
maybe
fun. It's fun. The first one's fun.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess they're meant to look like games, but they do look like games. That's the thing. They look like video games.
Yeah.
Just The Rock, running around as The Rock does in all these movies.
He's
in a
great.
video game,
He's wonderful.
climbing a fucking skyscraper, battling
I
a
love that movie, Skyscraper.
yeah, skyscraper is actually okay. But yeah, his other credits, he also produced the show New Girl. Don't know if you're aware of that show, New Girl, the Deschanel show.
Zoe.
She's in a show called New Girl.
I think a lot of people know New Girl. Everyone's pretty familiar.
It's probably one of the most popular recent shows of recent memory. No, I think the only other thing I would add, and I don't know if you'll bring this up later on, but I'm going to bring it up now, is that this film was nominated for a Golden Globe for the music, for some of the songs. I think for one of the songs.
They wrote 40 songs for this film, going decade by decade.
Right.
And I think that's really cool. A lot of the songs are really good.
Yeah.
For what you would be, you wouldn't be expecting. We're not getting Spinal Tap level of tunes here.
No.
But Walk Hard's a decent song.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the song that was nominated though. I don't know if it was that or if it was the final song. I see. I had it in my head, but I can't remember it now.
Well, keep going, and
I
I'll
think
find out
it was
for you.
"Beautiful Ride." I think it was called the last song.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it got nominated, but it lost out to Eddie Vedder, which ironically, Eddie Vedder is actually in this movie.
It was Walk Hard.
It was Walk Hard. Okay.
Walk Hard.
So Eddie Vedder's in this. He did a song for Into the Wild, that Sean Penn tearjerker.
It's so funny, though. It cracked me up because we knew ahead of time that Eddie Vedder won the award over this film, and then he shows up in the movie to give him a Lifetime Achievement Award.
With his beautiful gravelly voice.
Oh, love him.
Yeah, I do like a little bit Eddie Vedder. I know it's kind of it's a little bit played out, the whole Pearl Jam thing.
That's so wrong. That is so wrong.
Isn't
incorrect.
it? Yeah, but he's linked to like Temple of the Dog as well, is he not?
What's that?
Isn't that another band, Temple of the Dog?
I don't know.
Maybe you could find that out for me.
Okay, keep going, and I'll look that up. I also want to talk. Oh, are you done talking about it? Sorry.
I mean, to be fair, before I was rudely interrupted, I was going to say that's all of my information on Jake Kasdan.
Oh, great. Wonderful.
So.
Maybe let me just throw out there before we get too deep, I'm going to tell you the synopsis of this film. Following a childhood tragedy, Dewey Cox follows a long and winding road to music stardom. Dewey perseveres, I almost said perseveres wrong, through changing musical styles and addiction to nearly every drug known and bouts of uncontrollable rage. Yeah, okay.
So here's the thing. I've not really got a lot of notes for this movie because I kind of feel like just talking just about random things. Then we can bring up the big scene if we want to. But I mean, this is just a walk the line parody movie.
Well, it's not just a walk the line parody, but they make fun of many, many music staples and artists throughout the decades. I mean, this starts in 1946 and then ends in the 2000s.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're making fun of Bob Dylan, Ray Charles, David Bowie, Roy Orbison, Queen, Meatloaf. Jim Morrison obviously is on the poster. Elvis, the Beatles, Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson. Like, they make fun of every kind of huge music staple that we possibly know of, like the big stars. So it's more than that. And there was a lot of time during, the early 2000s where, Ray came out and Walk Hard obviously came out. So there was...
Walk the Line came out.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
See? Confusing. But they used this moment to make their spoof. I mean, that was how this movie started.
Yeah.
Jake called Judd Apatow and was like, I have an idea for a movie. We make a music spoof. He goes, great. I'll sell it.
Yeah.
And that's how this movie came to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's a parody of the musical biopic. I mean, that's effectively what it is. And it ticks pretty much all of the boxes.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, if you've seen a Judd Apatow picture before, and we're gonna cover other ones of this ilk, in due course. of which we might have the same amount of things to say about, because I don't know, like, other than the fact that, like, line for line and scene for scene, sometimes they can be quite funny, there's nothing particularly visual in this film that ever really catches my eye, that really kind of draws me into the cinematic experience. It's like the
No.
film works, because it's not a visual comedy. It could work as well just as an audiobook as it would just slapping it on a screen and then watching it for 90 minutes. And
But
to
then
say
we
it was
won't have then we won't have any full frontal male nudity or boobs.
yeah, I mean, I guess that's very true. But I don't feel like even that lends any sort of credence to improving the quality of this film.
Okay. Stop. Okay, the tagline for this film is "Life made him tough, love made him strong, music made him hard." There are not enough cock jokes in this movie.
No.
There's maybe 4 or 5,
Yeah.
and I thought that they could have dropped a Cox joke into so many scenes of this film. I mean, it
Yeah.
starts with one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm looking for Cox. Where's Cox? Pretty
Yeah.
good. You know, I thought there'd be more. Maybe it's just too obvious. But the film is full of obvious jokes, which I don't mind. Some of them land. Most of them land. Some of them don't. I laughed out loud during so many parts of this movie, and I've seen it before.
Yeah.
It's, it's pretty amusing. And John C. Reilly is, I don't know, he's so good. He's just a great actor. So when he gets in there and it's meant to be very serious or, serious for the character, which is always a joke.
Yeah.
But he always does such a good job. He's crying and he's so emotional, and then he runs down the street in his underwear.
Yeah.
But John C. Reilly is amazing. This is the first kind of leading role in a major Hollywood film. He'd been the lead in smaller films before, but this is his big kind of coming out as the lead of a film movie back in 2007.
Yeah, I would say that for the most part, we'd seen him in bit roles in Paul Thomas Anderson movies.
Characters. He's a character actor.
Yeah, or Tim and Eric, I guess, is kind of where more of I feel like his comedy chops kind of come in, as Tim and Eric.
Well, maybe around this time was Tim and Eric.
Okay.
I'm just trying to remember exactly when that all happened.
I don't know how the timelines and stuff match up, but he's obviously quite a big actor by the time he's in Tim and Eric anyway.
I mean, he'd been in Chicago already. I think he was nominated for Chicago.
Oh, okay. Well, either way. So, I mean, yeah, I kind of feel like I need you to kind of lead me through this, because I'm kind of
Well, I'll toss out my favorite things. The movie's pretty funny. There's not a lot of meat to it. So doing these comedy movies is kind of difficult.
Yeah,
because we can't talk about like you were saying, the cinematic experience. We can only talk about jokes. So if you haven't seen the movie, none of this will make sense.
No.
But it's available to watch streaming.
We can what we can do is I've got things here, like some of them are questions. Obviously one of them is obviously the dick scene, and we're gonna extrapolate that a little bit. But I mean the rest of it's just like lines I thought were funny.
Well, when the movie starts, his big hurdle and his demon that kind of carries through the rest of the film is his one trauma that happens when he's a kid, is where they're doing a lot of dangerous things. His brother is incredibly talented, and his brother is the favorite son, and Dewey is the, his not favorite son, and they end up getting into a machete fight.
As you do.
Yeah. And Dewey cuts his brother in half, like through his stomach.
Mm-hmm.
It's so dumb. It's so stupid. But he gets on, his torso slides off of his body, and he's like, I'm cut in half pretty bad.
I would just say, Laura, just calm down a little bit, because it
Cut
wasn't
in half pretty bad.
It wasn't that funny. It wasn't as funny as
I've had 3 glasses of wine. It's pretty funny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm having a good time.
Yeah, I've not had enough to drink to get through this one. Yeah, no, I mean, the whole thing is that, like, yeah, the kid gets cut in half with the machete. He's like, oh my god, but he is forgiven. Although his father's got a real problem about him when he's like, the wrong kid died, which is basically like almost 80% of his lines through the movies. He just continually brings that up.
It could have been the tagline for the film.
The one thing I did think was funny was like near the end, just before the father and Dewey Cox have their own machete fight as a way of revenge, redemption. He's singing as he's like moving all these bags of corn or whatever, and he's like, "The wrong kid died, the wrong kid died," which I thought was funny.
That is really good.
Yeah, there's plenty of like titular lines in this movie as well.
Well, yeah.
Walk Hard said like quite a few times, like you say, the pretense is all set up for it to be like nothing but like cock jokes and innuendo, like for the whole course of the 90 minutes.
Right, but it's not.
But it never really goes much further than that initial, like talking about like walking hard and his surname being Cox. Like it just kind of doesn't really go anywhere.
There's different innuendos that they have through different songs, but the comedy comes from
there are other jokes
every
to be had.
situation that they're in.
Yeah, it's a little bit ridiculous.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Yes.
But there's some jokes that run through the film that I absolutely love, which is all of the drugs and his evolution into drug use.
Yes.
Where it starts with his Tim Meadows plays the drummer. Yeah.
Yes.
And Dewey Cox walks into the bathroom. Tim Meadows is with a bunch of ladies and they're smoking weed.
Yeah.
And he's trying to convince Dewey to don't smoke this dope. And Dewey Cox is asking him why, I don't want to get addicted. And he goes, it's not habit forming. What else does he say? Oh, I don't want to be hungover.
It's like, I won't give you a hangover. No.
And all of these reasons. And he goes, I think I want to do some of that.
Is it prohibitively expensive? No, it's like one of the cheapest drugs around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says something about his sex drive. He goes, does it make me want to...
Yeah, it makes sex even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
The jokes were good, and it went through every kind of drug that Dewey Cox ended up getting into. So with the cocaine,
until cocaine, I was like, well, is cocaine a big thing in the 50s?
That was a weird
one. I feel
one.
like the timeline was all over the place a little bit.
I sat there and had to research when cocaine became super prevalent, which we would imagine, and through what we know about cocaine is more prevalent in the 70s and 80s. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this was in the 50s.
Yeah, the 50s.
Or maybe the 60s.
Well, I thought cocaine was more prevalent in the 70s. Personally.
Yeah, it definitely was, because it became illegal in 1914.
The 70s and the 80s, I would say.
Yes.
It's pretty big. It's like the yuppie era in the 80s.
If you guys haven't seen Cocaine Cowboys, it's a really good documentary about how Miami was basically built off of the back of cocaine. Yes. And it's very interesting.
There's also this movie called Scarface, which also might be able to
there's also this TV show called Narcos.
Yes. And also there's another movie called American Made as well with Tom Cruise.
Donald Gleason's in that movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, really? Then maybe don't bother watching it.
Yeah. Baby Gleason. That joke goes through the whole movie. Very, very funny. Mm-hmm. Is
there anything else that you really liked?
Well, there was that time.
Did you like all of the cameos in this movie?
I love all the cameos. I love the Beatles cameos.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought they were very funny.
I thought that was like one of the worst parts of the movie.
I liked it because none of them looked like the Beatles, and I thought that was the funniest part.
That's the thing. None of them looked like the Beatles. None of them really sounded like the Beatles.
That was the point. That was the joke.
Was it Jason Schwartzman who was playing Ringo?
Yes.
Yeah, so, okay, maybe that was fine,
Justin Long was George Harrison, and he sounded pretty good, actually.
He did. I mean, Paul Rudd sounded fine. And obviously, Jack Black was being deliberately bad.
Yeah. It's amusing.
I guess so. I don't know. I mean, you had them playing the Beatles. There's also like Harold Ramis turns up, and it's always nice to see him and stuff.
Oh, I know. He's a genuine treasure. Martin Starr is in this movie too.
Yeah,
When Martin Starr shows up in anything, it just brings joy.
yeah, it just
He's a star.
everyone is melting.
He is a star.
Malcolm in the Middle, can't remember his name. He plays Buddy Holly.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, and he is ageless. It seems like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he is going to look like Malcolm in the Middle for the rest of his goddamn life. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But then, like, is he going to be, like, that's the thing, like, when he gets older, is he just going to look like, is he going to look like Brad Pitt did in The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, like, when he was first born?
Well,
You know
that's
what
the
I mean?
thing. Where there's those people that are just forever young.
Elijah Wood is another one.
Elijah Wood,
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio. He still looks like a baby.
No, Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't look like a baby.
He looks a little bit.
No, it looks like he's been in the rough a little bit. Yeah, it's not improved his acting ability.
Frankie Muniz.
There you go. Yeah, can't remember his name.
The kid from I See Dead People.
Haley Joel Osment.
Yeah.
And he is quite funny. We
He's
were watching,
great.
yeah, we started watching The Boys. He was,
The
he's in
Boys.
The Boys. He's in The Boys for a wee bit.
Oh, he's so good. The Boys is so great. You guys need to watch The Boys.
Yeah, don't
We
bother
will
with
eventually
yeah.
maybe talk about The Boys because if you watch The Boys, there's tons of penises in that.
Yeah. Well,
Insane.
I only started watching it like from the very, very beginning last week, so we're kind of making our way through. I wouldn't mind talking about The Boys, but
Yes.
I mean, we've got a lot to cover there. I mean, Jack White plays Elvis.
He's really good as
He's
Elvis.
really good. I mean, he's playing a very exaggerated version of Elvis. He pulls a knife on him, starts talking about karate and shit. It's like, all right,
Super funny.
pretty good. But
Yeah, well, Dewey Cox ends up falling into drugs and alcohol and ladies. And so we
Yeah.
have the penis scene at 29 minutes into this film.
yeah,
And during this scene, he's talking to his wife on the phone, looking kind of bored. He's covered in like lipstick kisses all
he's
over
got a big lipstick kiss like around his nipple.
Yes, he does. He does, and he's in his underwear. There's
Yeah.
naked ladies all over the place. Tim Meadows is on the floor with a lady.
Well, he's talking on the phone to his poor first wife.
Yeah, Edith.
He's like, yeah,
Poor Edith with the 30 children.
left home at 12 years old.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So gross. Yeah, Matt Besser's on the ground. Chris Parnell's in the band too, and he's somewhere there's just tons of ladies. I don't know. There's 20 naked ladies in that room.
Yeah.
And while he's on the phone speaking with his poor wife,
Yes.
a man walks up into frame, and I think he was asking if he wanted any coffee.
Or he wanted anything,
Like,
yeah.
is there anything you need?
It's probably coffee or a drink or something. He's asking something.
And it's just this close, and am I going to say it wrong? Am I going to say, well, there's no pans or tilts, but it's like a close-up, mid-frame?
Well, yeah,
Film school?
Dewey Cox is like sitting on the floor and this other guy's standing up, so his cock and balls is eye level with where he is. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
So he's just kind of talking casually on the phone while this guy's, his genitals are just there.
Yeah, they're just in front of his face.
Super casual penis. Super casual penis and balls just hanging out right next to John C. Reilly's face.
Yeah.
For a bit. I mean, they're there for a little bit.
Yeah, well, he's oblivious to the fact that it's like he's not, like his face is his cock and balls that's talking to him.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
His hands on his hips.
Yeah, hands on his hips. Yeah.
So he's on the phone with his wife, and there's a knock on the door, right? Of the hotel.
Dewey's dad turns up
His dad
to
turns
tell
up.
him the story, the tragic story of how his mother has passed away.
Yeah.
And as he's standing there, because Dewey doesn't call his dad Dad, he calls his dad Paul.
Paw.
Paw. Is it Paw? I thought
Yeah,
it was Paul.
P-A, like Paul.
Paul. Oh, was it Paul? Oh, right. Okay.
Not Paul.
I thought he was calling him Paul.
Pa.
I was like, oh, like
The
Pa.
papa.
Papa, yeah. See that?
Come
Yeah,
on, Paul.
well, that goes over my head. I don't call him that.
Because you're not from the South.
No, I barely call my dad because I don't know where he is.
You can call him whatever you want, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I could. It could be like, hello, man.
Hey, stranger.
Hello.
Oh. I'm so sorry.
Oh dear, absent father. Absent father. That's fine. I can just have a wee. I'll have a wee cry about it later.
Just after this is over, we'll wrap this up.
Fucking talking about that. Just because you fucking grew up in a perfectly fine nuclear family. Fuck off.
The American
Fuck's
dream.
sake. Yeah, whatever. Fucking hell.
Well, the guy comes back with his
fucking mum dies, alright?
Oh, right. The story of his mom dying is very funny, though. Where Walk Hard comes on the radio and, you know, his father is saying, well, actually, it is pretty good song.
Yeah.
So they start dancing.
There's a toe tapper.
Ma and Pa.
Yeah.
And her foot gets caught up in the cord for the radio. And she trips and falls out the window.
So hilarious.
Very good. Oh, the mom is played by Margot Martindale. Beautiful character actress.
Yeah.
She's wonderful. I love her. She's in so many things.
Yeah, okay.
Whatever. So after she falls out the window, she's on the ground, and then the radio just knocks her in the head and kills her.
Yeah.
But
And
while
he's
that's
like,
happening, the guy who asked him for coffee, which he said was his roadie, is back there.
Yeah, he's just
naked still.
he just kind of turns up. He just kind of shows up in the background.
So 100% this kind of penis is played for laughs. This is a joke penis, a comedy penis.
A flaccid penis.
A flaccid penis played for laughs. There's no prosthetic happening here. It's just a man standing naked talking to John C. Reilly.
Yes.
So it's a funny one because it's a casual penis, which is my favorite. But it's also a comedy penis. I mean, this movie's insane and totally ridiculous, completely farcical. So... But I do enjoy a casual penis in a comedy movie.
Yeah.
Totally
this
happy
was
about it.
Yeah, this was fine.
Yeah.
This was fine the way it was.
He actually shows up again in the kind of that end scene in that end song that you were talking about. What was it called again? His final song that he wrote for his Lifetime Achievement Award.
Oh god, yeah, because it went in one ear and right out the fucking other. I only just said it like.
Well, during that song, he kind of has flashbacks to
Beautiful Ride. It was called.
Okay,
Jesus,
the
Christ.
best parts of his life and things. Well, I don't know if it's the best parts of his life, but things that he's remembering. And that was one of the moments where he's just standing in that room where they had obviously all had an orgy at some point.
Yeah.
And the guy is just, again, standing there naked. So.
Yeah. That's his naked roadie friend.
Naked roadie friend.
Yeah.
So it's funny, when we were talking about this, and right before we started recording, you asked me, do you know who that guy is? And
yeah, because you usually do.
I do usually know who the guy is. And I think I was a little bit more focused back, oh, it's so funny. I started this at this website back in 2007.
Okay.
That's when this movie came out.
But you were talking about like how you were focused.
Yeah.
Like in a previous life, you were more focused. Is that what you're trying to allude to?
No.
No.
Oh, wait, no, I was. I was going to say that I was more focused on the actors rather than the directors or I was just kind of compiling more actors in movies instead of the films. So I was definitely more focused on who was that actor, and I would research. I didn't do that for this movie because I've become in time not as focused on that because that's not important so much to me anymore.
No, the film itself, I feel like exhibiting full frontal male nudity, it's what differentiates us from the slew of attaching the genitalia to the personality.
Yeah. I'm still excited when I see some actor I really like get naked in a movie. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not a monster. But I didn't research this one as much. But I did some research, and apparently in one of the DVD extras, they end up talking about that scene in particular. And there's a guy in that little documentary who basically claims to be the naked person.
Right.
And his name is Tyler Nilson. And there was an article that I was reading where Judd Apatow was saying that he didn't want to reveal who the naked person was, but he said that at this point in time, he is a famous director. But he didn't want to reveal who it was because he didn't know if that person was talking about it. But it's funny because, like I was saying, in the DVD extras, Tyler Nilson says that he was the naked person. And he is... I'm pretty sure that's who it is. And he directed the Peanut Butter Falcon, and he won a Directorial Achievement Award at the Directors Guild for that particular film. So I think if it is anybody, it's definitely him.
Okay.
So.
I mean, if it's incorrect, then it's somebody else.
It's somebody.
But if that man named that, said that he was the dick in this movie, then it's probably correct.
I just feel like maybe Judd Apatow, when he was doing that interview,
Well,
didn't realize that he had already said that who it was. He'd already admitted to it.
Well, I mean, yeah, but at the end of the day, like, who really cares? And also, it's not his place to be, like, outing now successful filmmakers out from, like, previous roles. Because I think the gap between this movie to him winning that award is like 13 years or something.
Yes.
So, yeah, it doesn't really matter. I don't think anyone really cares.
No.
You know, could have been anybody. Don't really see the guy's face that much anyway.
Yeah, just at the very end you do.
Yeah. So it's not really that important. But yeah, that's the dick chat. What have you got to add to the situation, Laura?
Do you know who I haven't seen in a while?
Who's that?
Jenna Fisher.
Who's Jenna Fisher?
Pam from The Office.
Oh, American Office, though.
Correct.
Yeah. So the thing is about the UK Office is that it was the trailblazer. Like, it's what started this whole brand of comedy off.
This mockumentary television?
I guess so. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. I mean, you had your Christopher Guest stuff like before then, which was, you know, obviously it was a little bit more in the feature film scope. But like in terms of TV, I always felt like the UK Office was the trailblazer. But the thing is that at least that show had the dignity to cut out after 2 series. Well,
that's like British TV shows in general. They never typically, unless it's a soap, go over a couple of series. That never happens in the United States because we are more interested in longevity and money making. So if we can keep squeezing out the comedy or squeezing out the drama, we're going to do it. American Office I don't need to defend the American Office. I don't care.
Right, okay.
It's fine. But it's good. It is good because it comes into its own eventually, but then it does fall off at some point, in my opinion. But I don't think people would disagree with me. It's not perfect all the way through, but it is funny.
Yeah, no, it just maybe overstays its welcome.
Yes.
But,
But what I was saying is that I haven't seen her in a while because there became a point after and kind of during The Office where Jenna Fisher was in a lot of things, specifically Judd Apatow things. I think she was also in Undeclared, I think, for maybe like an episode or 2. So
right.
That's probably kind of how she got into this Judd Apatow universe.
Mm-hmm.
But she hasn't been in anything since 2018. So we haven't seen her in any film in 4 years. And the last thing she did was Clint Eastwood's The 1517 to Paris. So that's the last thing she was in.
Wherever that is.
It was a train movie, and there was a bunch of soldiers on it, and there was some sort of terrorist plot, I think, and they thwarted the plot.
Uh-huh.
It was a true story.
Right.
I hope I didn't mess that up. I haven't seen that movie.
No, I never even heard of it until you said it.
I saw the trailer. It's just not my thing. Clint Eastwood's not my thing.
Yeah, I don't know if that got a release overseas. I'm not even too sure because I have not heard that. Saying that though, I don't know everything either. I need to kind of preface that. You know,
it does bother me that she doesn't sing in the movie. I don't know why this is a thing in films. I mean, they hired John C. Reilly because he has a theater background. He has a musical theater background. I mean, he's also a famous actor, and that's fine. They had him in mind for this role. He can play guitar. He can sing. But is it just based on the fact that Jenna Fisher was famous from The Office? Why can't people hire people that can sing?
Well, here's the thing, is even if John C. Reilly couldn't sing and they had to give it over to somebody else, At the same time, he comes with a lot more cachet. Like he can keep a film together. Like he can hold a performance
For sure.
for the length of that time, and you'll still watch him for the. Well, I mean, this is only 90 minutes, although it felt like 100 hours. But the the thing is like, unfortunately, Jenna Fisher. I don't think she's very good. I don't think she's very good at all. Her role could have been played by anyone.
Yeah. Well,
I
Kristen
mean,
Wiig isn't...
all she was doing is she was copying Reese Witherspoon from Walk the Line. That's all she was doing.
I kind of wish that Kristen Wiig had played that part, because then we could have seen
Yes.
her more.
Yeah, they should have swapped it out. But then again, we would have been stuck without all that great stuff at the beginning with Kristen Wiig. You know,
Yeah, Kristen Wiig's just great.
where they're talking about like the candy house and stuff like that. You know.
I can't build you a candy house, Edith.
Yeah.
It will melt. It will not work.
But what if we built it in a place that didn't rain? I was like, oh, okay.
That's so weird.
I don't know, like, if I've not really seen her in anything else other than, you know, everyone's beloved Office or this.
She was in Blades of Glory also, which is another...
It's another one of
Apatow.
those, though. Yeah, it's another one of those, though.
Well, after Talladega Nights, I think those... Wait, did Step Brothers come... Step Brothers came after Talladega Nights.
It's like 2012, maybe.
Because after Step Brothers is some sort of fluke, but Blades of Glory isn't very good. And then he did that basketball movie. I'm just thinking of Will Ferrell movies now. I don't know if Judd
Semi-Pro?
Apatow did it. Yeah,
Yeah, there you go. Semi-pro.
thank you.
Well, look, I don't think Will Ferrell... I mean, Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly were also in that Holmes and Watson movie, and that's one of the worst fucking things ever.
Oh, that was really bad.
Oh, it's fucking terrible. So, I mean,
wow.
they can miss, but then again, like, Will Ferrell has the same sort of range, I feel like, as a John C. Reilly, where he can go into doing more dramatic roles as well.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He can do his, like, Daddy's Home movies as much as he likes. There's nothing wrong with them.
There's something wrong with the second Daddy's Home.
What, Mel Gibson?
It's so bad.
Mel Gibson's the only good thing in that fucking movie.
Despite the troubles with Mark Wahlberg, I could watch Mark Wahlberg do most things.
I'll watch Mark Wahlberg do
He's
fucking anything.
awesome.
Yeah, from like Fear onwards, and that's a lot. That's a fucking shit ton of stuff to watch. Fear is so good.
Fear is 5-star movie.
Yes, but it feels like it's James Gray's only kind of rise to stardom is like he did Fear, and then he's like attached to every single one of those like 50 Shades of Grey movies.
Oh.
Which is like, oh, James, come on, man. Those
Make more
books were
fear.
written on toilet paper. Yeah, make more fear.
Make more fear.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think like they still have the same sort of length and breadth in like their careers, and that they can kind of, you know, jump into dramatic and comedic roles and stuff like that. They're probably better known as being comedians now. Probably more as a curse, I would say, as being attached to all of these Apatow movies. You know what I mean?
I don't know if I necessarily think of John C. Reilly as a comedic actor generally. Will Ferrell, absolutely.
I think they've both been tarred with that brush, to be fair. You know?
I just think that John C. Reilly
Will
has
Ferrell's
such a-
more of that ilk, though, because he came from Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
Don't think John C. Reilly did.
No.
His was more of in the dramatic acting sense.
For sure.
You know?
Boogie Nights.
Yeah. All that P.T. Anderson stuff he's in. Because I think he's also in Hard 8, right?
He sure is.
Yeah, so... yeah, no, I would say like they come from slightly different backgrounds, but they effectively do, like they're on the same sort of path. It just depends, like it depends on whether or not you think like one's better than the other. Some people out there don't like Will Ferrell.
Well, one of those actors is not Steve Brule.
In fact, Steve Brule.
From the Tim and Eric, Steve Brule. Check it out with Steve Brule. That's John C. Reilly.
Oh,
Steve Brule.
right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk about the Woodsman and how fucking troubled we've had the entirety of today.
Yeah, today started out with the best of intentions, where we knew ahead of time we were going to record an episode. And we have something planned.
Well, let's put it in. It's been 12 hours since we effectively got got ready to start the day.
Yeah, 12 hours ago we started
And 12
to
hours
get
ago,
ready for this.
Yeah, 12 hours ago, it was in the morning.
It was.
We're now deep into the night.
Yeah, that's an
Yeah.
accident. Well, because we have something planned after this episode, we needed, I don't want to say a filler, but we needed a film to come before so that we could start our next plan.
So we were
coming
looking,
up.
yeah, we were looking at limited filmographies.
Right, so that we didn't have to go too deep.
Yeah, from
too
directors who maybe only had like one or two films, or at least a selection of films that we knew 100% did not include any more nudity in them. Unfortunately, with picking Jake, there is some other of his movies that do, but you know what?
We had to give up at a certain point.
We have to. We usually have a plan, and we do have a plan for at least the next like couple of months. But then we were like, someone messed up the scheduling. Someone messed up the set plan.
And then someone picked a movie today that we watched this morning that he swore had. So, it was a very dramatic film.
Yes.
Where someone he thought cut their penis off on a bench. And
So
I
here's
was
the thing.
100% into whatever was going on there.
Here's the thing.
So I was interested.
Well, I don't know. Like, well, hold on. I'll get the notes up. I don't know if we'll even ever cover this movie. I think we're kind of doing this this is almost like a little twofer. We're not going to go into any depth about it. But anyway, we covered Nicolas Cassel's The Woodsman today as well.
You're making me. I want to get my notes.
Okay, we'll get your notes up. I'll get us
we made all
started.
these notes.
Yeah, well, we can start them off because I made a ton of notes for it. Because
the 2004 drama
ridiculous.
The Woodsman,
Yeah.
starring Kevin Bacon, Kira Sedgwick, Mos Def, Benjamin
Yes.
Bratt, David Allen Greer, and Eve.
Yeah.
So I thought that there was a penis in this movie, and from my research that I did, and neither of us had seen that film before.
No.
We understood that there was full frontal male nudity, and then Ryan, you believe that there was a scene at the end of the movie
Yes.
where the character was sitting on a bench being overlooked, and it looked like they were masturbating.
Yes.
But indeed, they were cutting off their penis.
Yes, that's what I thought.
So I was like, whoa.
But in order to put any context to this, because originally what I thought, because I'd wanted to see The Woodsman, but then I knew what it was about, and I was like, okay, I don't know, like, there's 1,000 films out there that I could rather watch, and if I don't need to sit through this sort of thing, then that's okay.
The synopsis for The Woodsman is, a pedophile returns to his hometown after 12 years in prison and attempts to start a new life.
So could you understand how potentially this was maybe treading on thin ice for us?
This is a movie we watched this morning.
Yeah,
this
we
is
thought
what
we were going to do this.
up to watch.
Yeah.
Is this pedo movie starring Kevin Bacon and
The Redeemable Pedophile film.
I cannot believe that this film even exists.
I don't even know how they've ever thought it would ever be successful on the basis of like trying to be a story about a man who not only molested one child, but a selection of children.
Several.
And ended up going to prison for 12 years.
And had no plans to stop whatsoever. And
No.
weirdly, through the film, still doesn't have any plans to stop.
No, he is consistently fighting his urges as he's preying on these kids. And also watching as other predators seemingly go about their business abducting children and seemingly doing absolutely nothing about it. So obviously the whole basis was that there's ties to like Little Red Riding Hood, and we know the tale of Little Red Riding Hood. The woodsman shows up and he cuts open the stomach of the wolf and saves Little Red Riding Hood.
Correct.
None of that happens in the movie, to the point where like there's even people in it, and I mean I agreed a lot with what Mos Def was saying.
Love him.
To
Treasure.
Kevin Bacon's character through it, where basically he's just like, well, he's a piece of shit. No one would ever fucking miss you. And I'm like, well, yeah. I'm like, of course they wouldn't. But
as he's actively predating whilst in therapy with Michael Shannon, who's amazing.
Who's playing fucking musical chairs every time he gets him to do like a hypnosis session. It's weird as fuck.
I loved it.
So strange. But yeah, no. Here's the story behind, like, because I knew about the movie before, and for whatever reason, at one point I heard that the end of the movie was that he couldn't control his urges, so that like Kevin Bacon's actual wife, what's her name?
Kira Sedgwick?
Yeah, so she's in it playing his love interest, and she's, even after finding out who he is and what he's all about, still finds him attractive.
He explains to her
Ugh.
that he molested a variety of 10 to 12-year-old girls,
Yeah.
even though some of them were as young as 9.
Yeah.
But he swears he never hurt them. He
Uh-huh.
explains this to her, and she's still like, I can fix him.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
That makes no sense. Mos Def is following him around while he's actively stalking young girls.
Mm-hmm.
Ew.
Well, also Mos Def, I mean, he's following him around and saying, "Oh, I'm keeping an eye on you," blah 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 blah. But like, he doesn't at any point like step in while he's like actively stalking some of these children.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just like,
Maybe
well,
he's just well, I guess he's probably trying to wait till he actually tries to take someone, because then he can put him back in jail.
yes,
Because he doesn't ever get to that point in the movie.
no, I guess like being an active pederast and just talking to children is seemingly okay. And certainly also, here's another thing, also being less than 400 feet away from an active schoolyard, where you're living, to the point where you can actually see that schoolyard from your living room window, is also seemingly okay.
I was looking this up while we were watching the movie, and also we were looking up how many sex offenders live near us.
Yeah, no, there's fucking shit ton.
Well, there's a lot more our neighborhood is actually pretty tame compared to some other neighborhoods around.
Still, one is
There's
too many.
way too many sex offenders. But Megan's law requires authorities to make information available to the public regarding registered sex offenders, right? So that's the law, and while most states have that database, the sex offender registry, so you can look them up, you can look at a map, you can see where they are. But there isn't a rule, at least in Pennsylvania where this was set, where they have to be a certain distance and live a certain distance from schools and daycares and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's a case-by-case basis, so I guess depending on your crimes. But there is a rule in Florida, they have to live more than 1,000 feet from a school.
Yeah, at least that makes sense. But, yeah.
You just keep watching out the window. Benjamin Bratt comes over to his house, and he's looking out the window, and he's like, what does he say? Everyone's gotten older.
Yeah, no. Well, here's the thing. Like, well, no one puts two and two together where they're like, even after he says that he's a convicted pedophile, no one goes, do you not think it's a little bit weird that you can see a schoolyard from your house?
But everyone mentions it when they go to his house.
They're like, there's a schoolyard.
Like,
And you're like,
that's
oh.
weird, isn't it? Isn't it kind of loud? And he goes, I like the noise.
Yeah, hey, motherfucker. Yeah. No, he says something in the region of just like, he's gone away for such a long time. He's come back, and he's like, his brother-in-law goes, it's like, people have just been getting older. And he says, and Kevin Bacon says something in the region of, hold on, I think I wrote it down.
I have it.
You actually have it.
Feels like the whole world has gotten younger.
Ooh.
Ew.
Ooh. That was my review. It just went, ooh. And I know we've gotten completely off tangent. We're never going to talk about this movie because there is a potential dick scene.
There is.
And it's right at the very beginning of the movie.
3 minutes and 28 seconds into this film, Kevin Bacon is showering. It's during the opening credits. And you do see a penis flop from the other side of the shower. So it's almost like a blurry...
It's like tinted glass, though.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that bubble glass.
We missed it when we started watching the movie. We watched the whole movie.
But we were under the pretense. So let's just say, like, this movie came out in 2004, right? It's Nicola Cassel's directorial debut. She adapted the play by is it Stephen Fletcher? And it was lauded at Cannes and Sundance and stuff like that. So immediately they were like, we've got to make this into a movie. Kevin Bacon's attached. Like, everything's going to be fantastic, right? And for whatever reason, I remember the poster. and there's a lot of red in the movie, which is also kind of like a little bit of a kind of pet peeve of mine, is like the use of the color red in things. And I've done
It's
it
Little Red Riding Hood.
I've done it myself, but it's also kind of one of those things that it's like what a student filmmaker does. It's like you stick this, it's like the Sixth Sense,
Yeah.
It's like, well, we do this because, it's like, Kubrick did this and all that, De Palma. It's like, right, okay, whatever. But anyway, I was under the pretense, and I don't know why because I have the same issue with, I think there's a movie with Will Smith called £7, where I think he meets a bunch of people who are in need of like organ transplants or something. And he signs an agreement that after he kills himself in like a fucking bathtub with like a poisonous fucking octopus or something, so that he can keep his organs intact, so that those organs can go to the people who need them.
Wow.
I'm assuming that's real. I've not seen the movie, but I'm assuming it's real. But now I am doubting everything that I ever thought about films that I've heard about that I ever thought. But I always thought that the ending of The Woodsman was that there's a moment in the movie. This is the actual movie, not the one that's obviously playing in my head. But his then girlfriend goes looking for him because she finds his journal is all torn up, and he's just writing his fucking dirty thoughts. And he's at the park and he's talking to that girl. And the girl admits to him that she's also been molested. So he immediately loses interest.
Correct.
Fucking gross, right?
Yes, because
there's just nothing. There's nothing redeemable about what he's doing. None of the stuff where you come out, you're like, oh, you're sympathetic. It's like there's nothing sympathetic about it.
I don't know if it's played because we're supposed to think that he, as this pedo, feels bad for the little girl who's been molested.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, he's just saying, oh, she's already sullied.
Yeah,
so
he's
I'm
like,
not interested
I'm not
anymore.
interested. So she leaves.
Filthy.
So she leaves, and I'm like, that bit's coming up. That bit that I thought was in the movie is coming up. And he's on the bench. And I thought, like, and before I heard it, I was just like, well, there's a playground or something in front of him, or he's like looking, and we see her perspective as she's coming up behind him from the bench, and then we can only assume from the motion of what he's doing with his hands is that he's masturbating, right? And we'd already kind of alluded, there's another bit in the movie where he works in a lumber yard, right? Woodsman, right? And he's like cutting wood, and at one point it holds too long on a bit where he's got like a rotary blade, and he's like looking at it, and it's just like spinning, and I was just like, he's thinking about he's gonna cut something off. But when she comes to him in the bench, he's like making a motion. It's like, oh no, he's fucking masturbating again. But no, when she turns around, he's like got a knife to his dick, and he's like hacking his dick off. Is what I thought happened in the movie. Unfortunately, that's not what happens.
No.
What eventually happens is his estranged sister, who he, as they were younger, molested, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, why doesn't my sister like me anymore? It's like, all right, fool. But she is not happy with him, and he ends up just looking on at the river that they're at, and obviously his girlfriend's there, the brother-in-law is there, and it just kind of fades to black. And then it just ends.
This guy, weirdly enough, in the context of the film, gets a happy ending.
Yeah, he
where
does.
He moves in with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Who also was molested by all of her brothers.
Yeah.
I just can't. This movie made me very uncomfortable.
It basically kind
upset.
of illustrated that there's pedophiles everywhere.
Yeah.
And like everyone is interconnected in one way or shape or form to some form of abuse by someone at the hands when they were younger.
Yeah.
And I guess like the only reason we were bringing it up is that we spent so long doing this and so many times, like so many hours, like putting notes together, doing this to then be like, Ryan, where is that moment? And seemingly that moment just doesn't exist. I thought there was another cut. I don't know where I heard this from. I honestly can't remember. I thought this would be a good example of something to do.
If anyone knows of the movie that Ryan's talking about, where there's a guy sitting on a bench cutting his wiener off, please let us know.
Yeah.
Hit us up. I'm interested. I want to see that movie.
But the issue
Couldn't
is
find anything about any scene like
the
that online.
well, the thing is like that moment doesn't exist in the film. So I always kind of felt like I'm like all the horrible stuff that happens during the course of the movie. You're like the guy's gonna see sense, like he's gonna take his action into his own hands, quite literally, and we're gonna redeem some element of the innocence that he has stolen from these people. But it didn't happen. No, it's just kind of like, well, look, he's a bad person, but
He's trying.
He's trying. I'm like,
Give him a shot.
So yeah, I mean, I guess like this episode turned into a little bit of a twofer, but I wasn't gonna leave it without going up because we're never gonna talk about the Woodsman again.
No,
and it's still fresh in our minds.
we did watch it today.
But it's also because Ryan thought something happened that didn't happen. Actually, the film would probably be better if it did happen.
Oh my god, it would be so much better. I would have loved
Yeah.
to talk about it because even if that was like a shadowy penis scene in the beginning,
Yeah.
I would have let it slide for that end scene that doesn't exist, that exists in your head.
Yeah.
He asks that young girl to sit on his lap, Ryan.
Yeah.
I'm horrified. I'm not recommending that film. Walk Hard, a Dewey Cox story.
Yes.
I would like to know your ratings for the full frontal scene.
Okay, so we'll keep this brief, but I would say 5 stars for visibility. I mean, context-wise, I mean, I guess it works as well. It's maybe a little bit lower than a 5. But I mean, it's right there, right in front of your face in a close-up. You don't see that very often.
No.
And yeah, that moment. I mean, I'm not rolling on the floor laughing or anything, but I mean, it's amusing.
I'm gonna give it 5 stars. It's funny. It is a close up, and it's a real penis. It's a real man's penis,
Yeah.
and it's funny, but it's works because there's so much female nudity happening in that scene.
Yeah.
That if you just had gratuitous female nudity, it would be gratuitous.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
And what would you rate the film?
Oh, I kind of went straight down the middle with it, 2.5. Because
Okay.
it for even just being an hour and a half, it feels so long.
It weirdly does feel long, and I tried to blame our dog for interrupting us in the middle, which that might have been the case.
But the problem is by the time we paused, and I thought it was at least like more than an hour into it, it was like maybe 35 minutes.
Oh, that's pretty bad.
And I was like, ooh, dear. I was like, this film is not that funny.
I gave the film a 3. It is amusing. I do forget this movie in parts, but I do remember that. I do remember that penis scene pretty clearly. Because when you asked me after watching The Woodsman, he goes, "Are you sure there's a penis in Walk Hard?" And I said, "Absolutely, 100%."
Yeah,
No problem.
I'm now going to doubt everything that I've ever thought
That's true.
going forward. So
Would you recommend Walk Hard?
I think there's worse things you can watch, as we've just illustrated. I think there's worse things out there that you can watch that'll take up 90 minutes of your time. But I feel like if you're the sort of person who feels like life is passing you by and everything's going at 1,000,000 miles an hour, you can just watch Walk Hard and it'll make you feel like you were watching something for like 10 days. So hopefully it'll just slow down time a little bit for you. Just
If you
so
feel like you have a
let
lot
it
of
all out.
tasks to accomplish, this movie somehow slows down time completely. So if
Yeah.
you've got to do your taxes, or you have a lot of laundry, or a lot of dishes building up, or if you wanted to apply for some new jobs,
It's
then
like the
put
cinematic.
Walk Hard on.
Yeah, it's like the cinematic. It's like the filmed cinematic presentation equivalent of, say, bullet time,
What?
where time slows down and you can see the bullets and you can dodge the bullets like
the
Neo.
Matrix.
Yeah, like
Okay.
the Matrix. Yeah, because I'm talking about the Matrix.
I would also recommend this movie in a way because a lot of people have already seen it. Maybe it went under the radar. This film did not make a lot of money. It wasn't a huge success, but people did talk about it because it was one of the first. I mean, we've seen a lot of spoof movies in our time, but this was one of the first music biopic spoof movies
Yeah.
since since
I would
Elvis
say,
came out.
yeah, I'd say the spoof is basically turned to the bottom of the barrel equivalent of like movie making now, because we've got all those like those movies, like epic movie, disaster movie,
Scary movie.
like all that sort of stuff. Yeah, and I mean we're kind of movied out of those movies, those spoofy movies, So I think that's kind of it, because like before, you had the heady heights of like your airplanes and your naked guns and stuff like that. So.
Hot Shots.
Hot Shots Part 2, which is also, I think it's probably better than Hot Shots. Or, I don't know if this would be a spoof as well, but there's a Kelsey Grammer movie where he's the captain of a submarine. It's called Down Periscope.
Yeah, I think I feel like I've seen that movie.
There's like a rendition of In the Navy in that movie.
Cool.
It's pretty funny.
Well, I think we've gotten everything we need to. I don't recommend The Woodsman. Just don't. Unless you want to be super uncomfortable for 90 minutes and not feel good about it.
Or at least begin to question why someone thought that dealing with that amount of subject matter and trying to redeem the individual who committed these, probably some of the most horrific crimes ever known to man. I mean, it just stumbles all over itself, I feel. So
it's so troubling because everyone in that movie is so great. I mean, Kevin Bacon's amazing. He's really, really good.
Yeah, Kevin Bacon can act his way out of any sort of
really
scenario
can.
or situation, but obviously this is like...
And Michael Shannon's in this movie, for crying out loud.
Yeah, he's also... I mean, it's a shit. He's like...
What a treat.
Yeah, but he's also like...
Most deaf. David Alan Grier.
They're also criminally underused.
David Alan Grier is in this movie for no reason except just to be the incredible David Alan Grier.
Yeah.
Why not give him something more than defending the pedo?
I mean, pretty much.
Whatever.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't know. So, thank you so much for being here with me today, Ryan.
Yes.
I'm really sorry that this took 12 hours, but we're at the end, and now we can...
Well, what we did come out with was a very special episode where we hardly had anything to say about Walk Hard, but we had plenty to say about the movie that we just didn't really like, which tends to be the way that it is. So you got like a little bit of a twofer in this one.
Yeah.
So
you're welcome for our mistake.
What a treat.
Coming to you from Edith's candy house in a place where it never rains, I have been Laura.
And I'm still Ryan.
We will catch you next time where we've got some really extra special stuff cooking up for you. I'm pretty stoked. And if you guys ever want to know what movies we're doing next, if you want to prep, make sure to follow us on the social medias where we will tell you what to watch so you can be up to date. But that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.